Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Taylosive EV live on YouTube. I'm never been more anxious for this Tesla purchase in my life just because every morning for the past couple weeks I've been waiting for my delivery window to update because it's been pushed back several times and I haven't received a VIN yet at this point. So people were asking that in the chat. They're asking if I've got the VIN. No, and I've even checked the source code because I guess that's a thing you can do. If someone from Tesla doesn't email you or contact you saying you've been assigned a VIN or whatever, there's actually a way you can go to your order page and you hit, like, on Mac if you're using Chrome. I haven't found a way to make it work on Safari, but I hit Command Option U and you see all of the raw data within your order page. And then you do Command F to search and you put 5YJ because I think 5YJ is in like every Fremont VIN. And then that will reveal the VIN to some people, even though Tesla hasn't contacted you about it. And I don't have a VIN assigned, and yet refreshing every morning, and still it has not updated August 12th to September 9th. So I'm curious, like, do you guys think it'll change tomorrow, or do you think that there's actually some validity to this timeline? I mean, it's still a pretty wide delivery window, and I've seen a lot of people say that the window's not very accurate until it turns into like a 2 week margin. But usually, from the discussions I've seen online, most people say that if you get this close to your delivery window and they haven't changed it, it's because you're getting close, or it's because they're about to give you a VIN or something. Because otherwise, like, why why not change it? Like, especially if I'm definitely not getting my car tomorrow. I feel like there's almost no chance of that. Um, so why have a delivery window that starts in the past, right? That doesn't make any sense. Like, you could get your car yesterday. It's like, no, I don't think that's how it works. So I'm very, very excited. I'm still a little bit frustrated just because there was a lot of driving we did last month and start of this month between family reunions and trips and long drives to the airport. And I was really, really hoping to be able to do those drives with the Tesla and not have to pay for gas, but we had to. And I've got some more driving coming up next week where we have to bring my in-laws back to the airport, which is a long drive. And I'm kind of hoping, like, fingers crossed, like, can we get the car before that road trip? Because that's going to be another 6 hours of driving, and I would love to have autopilot on those next 6 hours. So, yeah, Trevor's saying the date will definitely change. I feel like it has to. I'd be surprised if it was a 4 week window. Although I think I found one person in the Standard Range Model 3 subreddit that said that they had a 4 week window, and then, like, suddenly they got a call that their car was ready for pickup and they didn't have a VIN assigned. It was, like, very sudden. So I don't know if, like, someone delayed their delivery or someone canceled their delivery and they had a car ready. So they were just like, oh, here's someone with that order. Let's just give it to them. So it's a very, very complicated algorithm that they have to figure out with all these changing plans and people modifying orders. But yeah, it's the final countdown. They might send you your VIN tomorrow. That would be great because someone asked earlier, who was it? Steven was asking if I'm going to get Tesla insurance. My plan is to. My ultimate goal is just to get the cheapest possible insurance I can. And from asking around from people with Teslas in California, it seems like unless you're military and you qualify for USAA, Tesla insurance is typically the cheapest. So I assume that if we get a quote from Tesla Insurance, it'll be cheaper than our current insurance provider, but I don't know that to be sure. So you can't get a Tesla insurance quote until you have a VIN assigned. So because I don't have a VIN, I don't know what my insurance is going to cost yet. So I don't know if it ends up being more expensive than just getting it through our current provider, which I think is Geico. From what I've read online, most of the time Geico does not provide very good rates for Tesla. And my friend Randy's on USAA, and he said that the rates are better there than they are with Tesla. So, but I'm not military, and I'm not related to anyone military, so I can't get USAA anyway. Josa Neal says Progressive has been good. USAA was worse than Progressive for me. Yeah, I'll definitely check around. I'm all in favor of getting memberships and recurring costs as low as possible. That's why I'm very interested in getting the most energy efficient vehicle on the market, which is the Model 3 rear-wheel drive. So I'll ask around. I'm not like 100% sure, 100% sure, like, yes, I have to get Tesla insurance. It's just whoever's the cheapest, that's the one I'll get. Trevor Scott says mine changed so many times. Originally, it was what was I saying? November 7th to December 1st. A ton of and now it's December 31st. Oh wow, my window has changed from 3 weeks to 4 days. I have a VIN. Oh, good for you, Tim. Congrats. Where do you have to do to pick up? Where do I don't know. Should I reveal that? I'm not sure I should. I'll tell you after the fact. But I don't know if it's a good idea to tell people exactly where I'm picking it up, because then I don't know. I trust most of you. Like, I'm sure 99% of you are not weirdos that would try to stalk me, but all it would take is one for me to mention publicly where I'm picking it up. Maybe I'll tell the channel members on a post or something where I'm picking it up. You'll probably see it because I plan on doing like a whole delivery day video where I film, and you'll probably see the location in the video, but only after the delivery has taken place. Make sure you don't mow down any hapless cardboard children. Okay. Thank you, Mike. I'll try to avoid that. Shop around. State Farm was cheaper than Tesla. Really, Jerry? That's interesting. Trevor says, if someone cancels and has it sent to your delivery center with your exact build, then you'll probably get a call sooner. Well, I feel like everyone in my area is not doing that, though. Like, there's just so much pent-up demand. I saw a news article recently that the Model 3 and Model Y separately, what's the word for that? Like, not combined, but like on their own sales, are the best-selling vehicles in California, which is not a small market. California is larger than many countries. Like, more people live in California than Canada, more people live in California than Australia. And yet, in the automotive market of California, Model 3 and Model Y were at the top. Separately. If you combine them, they have some, like, insane lead. But they're beating the Honda Civic. They're beating the Toyota Camry. Which makes sense because, like, Teslas are the only vehicles built in this state. So, you know, they're building, like, they're all over the place. And that's what I think is so frustrating about it. Like, several times last night, and I don't live in a very big city. I live in a fairly rural area, and just driving home from my grandparents' house last night, I saw 2 Model 3s of my build. And I was just like, yep, there's my car. There it goes. Someone has it. Someone got it. Which was kind of frustrating. It's like, you have the money and you're ready for the car, and you're having to put up with your gas car, and your gas car keeps failing on you. And you're seeing other people drive around in the car you ordered. It's like, come on. I hope they're right. Neo311 says, happy for you. In my case, my advisor knows the VIN before the system did. Oh, interesting. Maybe I should check. Yeah, I asked before because I think last week texted me, which got me really, really excited. I was in the middle of working and I got a text from Tesla and I was like, and I checked it and it said, do you want to trade in your old car? And I was like, no. By the way, I was curious because I know that the used car market right now is kind of crazy. So I plugged in our VIN and mileage on our Sonata, and I plugged it into the Tesla trade-in value quote thing, and they said they would give me $700. They were asking if I wanted to trade in my Sonata for $700. You know, as worthless as that car is, I think I would rather just keep it. I think I could, if I really don't want the car, I think I could sell it and probably get at least like $3,000 for it. I was looking around at what cars are selling for in my area, and I think I could easily get probably $3,000 or $4,000. Even though it's not in, you know, pristine shape, I think $700 wouldn't even cover the new iPhone. You couldn't even buy a new iPhone with that. That's a win for the environment too. Exactly. What does Tesla do with those old cars? Do you guys know? I don't actually know what happens to all these old trade-in gas cars. Do they sell them to someone? Or do they just demolish them so that there's no more gas cars there's less gas cars on the road, I guess. Trevor says, I have State Farm as well. While just the car insurance is more than Tesla insurance for me, when I combine my home and motorcycle, the total was less than Tesla insurance. Yeah, that gets into a new little side subject that we don't really care for. We live in an area where homeowners insurance is very difficult because the providers constantly drop you. We've gone between 3 different home insurance providers over the past ever since we've lived here, which is about 3 years now. and every time it gets to summer and it gets to fire season, they drop us, which is really the only time we care about like having homeowners insurance is when there's a bunch of fires going on, because of course California, everything's on fire. um so it's like this is the season you want insurance, and this is always when they drop you. So they're basically charging us money throughout the rest of the year, where homeowners insurance is mostly useless to us because we live in a fairly safe area, and I don't like we don't have a bunch of problems with people trespassing or trying to take our stuff, or like we're basically kind of unsold on homeowners insurance. So I don't think there will be much bundling going on with cars. They're gonna sell your car for $2,000 to $3,000. Yeah, probably. You can get a 13 Mini for that. I don't even think it would cover sales tax. People are saying they auction the cars. Where? Where are people buying these cars at auctions? I just don't do that, I guess. I don't get it. Mike in the Woods says, can you go over what the process was like for ordering your Tesla? I'm assuming you haven't hit the insurance step yet due to lack of VIN, but other documents they needed? Not much. I do think I started a list because I knew I was very curious, and a lot of people I was watching were not giving me a step-by-step instruction process of like what happened. Here it is. Okay, I have the note written down. Tesla steps after ordering. So I haven't updated this because not much has happened in the past few months other than just me waiting and waiting. But first is to, okay, you do your order, right? Like that's the obvious one. You configure your car and you say, okay, I want to buy this one. And you put down the non-refundable $250 that does not go towards the vehicle purchase. That is just the cost of telling Tesla you want to buy the car. That doesn't actually go towards the vehicle purchase, which there was some confusion on, but I cleared that up in my breakdown. So after that, the first step when you go into your account page and it says, here's your order and everything, you have to enter your address. And I believe it has to be, I'm pretty sure it has to be the address that's on your driver's license, but it says enter an address to see if you qualify for home delivery. So if you live close enough to a delivery center, they will just bring the car straight to your house. So I entered our address, and we did not qualify, which doesn't surprise me because we're in a pretty rural area. And the next step is they'll ask you what location you want to pick up at. So we had two options. They said this delivery center is the closest one to you. This one's a little bit further. Like, which one do you want to pick up? So we selected one. And then after that, there's a little QR code that pops up on, if you're on the web, there's a little QR code that pops up. And if you scan it with your phone, it takes you to a link where you can access your phone's camera, and then it has you scan your driver's license. So they ask for like a valid, up-to-date driver's license. If it's expired, then it won't work. So you take a picture of your driver's license and submit it to Tesla. And for us, we're going to have me and my wife registered on the vehicle. So my wife had to make a Tesla account separate from mine, tap that link with the QR code and everything, and scan her active driver's license. And then after that, they ask if you're trading in a vehicle, which we said no, which doesn't seem to matter because they reached out again later anyway. And then after you say that you're not or are trading in a vehicle, then they ask if you're planning to pay in cash or if you're financing. I didn't get the option after I put the down payment to lease. So I think if you want to lease, you have to disclose that when you're ordering the vehicle, or maybe you have to contact a support agent. But when I was at checkout, it didn't ask me if I wanted to lease. So those are all the steps. After that, it just says, okay, please wait. You can see the breakdown in your account page and your estimated delivery. So yeah, it's those are the steps I'm through at this point. I'll continue to add to that list as things change. Do I have a wall connector yet? No, I didn't want a wall connector just because it was more expensive, and it was like, I think it was going to be like $400 cheaper to just get a NEMA 1450 outlet. So we had one of those installed a few years ago because we thought we were going to get the car a lot earlier. We were kind of saving up and planning to buy a Model 3 back in 2019. So we got the 1450 outlet installed, and then some plans changed because honestly, the YouTube channels and the EV channel and everything started doing really well before we even got the car. And we wanted to kind of secure our future and alleviate all debt. So because the channels were doing so well, we realized, wait a minute, we can we can pay off the house a lot faster, and then we don't have to worry about a mortgage in the future because my income is so volatile, it's all over the place. I wouldn't pay off the house if I had a very consistent income, if I had like a salaried job and I knew exactly what I was going to make every year, but I don't. My income's like this. It's all over the place. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not good, and we figured because we don't know if it's always going to be great, let's do the responsible thing and alleviate debt. That way we can make the big purchases like a Tesla in the future and not be worried about financing and that kind of stuff. So that's why we're paying in cash. We got a wall connector, but my electrician friend told me it's too much power for our small house. We can't even return it. Oh, really? That's too bad. Man, I'm worried because we have a small house too. I'm hoping that the NEMA 1450 outlet isn't too powerful. It may have been a mistake when we were thinking about home charging. We were like, we should just get the fastest charger we can. But my wife was still commuting to work back then. Now she doesn't even work at that at that old job she has. So we're not necessarily driving as much as we used to, and I'd probably be fine with a standard 110 outlet. I could probably slow charge, and that would cover my charging. So if the NEMA 1450 outlet overruns our circuitry or explodes or something, we'd probably just go with a 110 outlet if we could do the whole thing again. Jacob says, I have a wall connector plugged into a NEMA 1450 I installed a while back. I just like the aesthetic. It is a nice aesthetic, but I'd rather have a couple $100. Invest that in stock, I'd rather have money. What is Ryan talking about? Opposite of that, the used car market right now is insanely overvalued. Well, overvalued is a weird term because I think value is dictated by what someone is willing to pay for something. So if someone is willing to pay a higher price for a vehicle, then it's not overvalued. That's just what it costs. It's just going against the traditional it's going against the traditional playbook of used cars are supposed to be worth a lot less, and as soon as you drive a car off the lot, it loses all its value. Because of the chip shortage and because of how few cars are available, that's not really happening. Let's see. With current petrol prices, the petrol in your car is probably worth more than the car. Not quite, but yeah, we're headed that direction. It's a larger and larger percentage, I guess. With gas prices around here, a full tank is probably worth like $70 or $80. So if the trade-in value is worth $700, 10% of the car is just in gas. That is kind of mind-boggling, though. There's a way to find your VIN before it comes in your app. Check the video online. I did it and it worked. What? The video? Jerry, tag me on Twitter or something. But I checked the source code on my website. I don't think there's a VIN. And when I asked Tesla if there was any way to accelerate my delivery, they said no. So I'm guessing there isn't. The NEMA 1450 mattered more with the older chemistry. Since you can charge your Tesla to 100%, it's fine to just trickle charge it to full instead of quickly charging before you leave on a trip. I don't see how that really matters, because even if you had to leave it to 80%, your trickle charge can get you there. Your fast charger can still get you there fine. Looking into trading the other Model 3 2019 Standard Range Plus for a Long Range 3. Tesla is giving us $44,000. Wow! That's impressive. What did you pay for that one? California is way outside the norm with gas. No wonder why everyone out there wants an EV. Well, it's usually ahead of its time. I mean, it doesn't change the fact that Tesla wait times are longer than they've ever been in the United States, not just California. So even though Teslas are being built at higher volume, Giga Texas is ramping and now coming close to 1,000 a week. Building long-range Model Ys with the 2170 cells. Fremont is just had a record month, and they're building more vehicles than they've ever built. And the wait times haven't decreased. Troy Teslike is monitoring this thing, and the average wait time of a Tesla has literally never been longer. So doesn't matter if the gas prices are going down. Doesn't matter if production is at an all-time high. Hasn't changed. Demand has still continued to increase, which is a bummer. Charlie says he paid $42,000. Wow. So that's a hard you drive a hard bargain. You can trade in your old car and get money back on it. Literally profit, but I guess you'd have to replace it with a more expensive car, because long range Model 3 is $58,000 now. So that, you know, it's still an expense. You'd still have to spend some money, but like I guess you have to ask, like, would you pay $14,000 to get a longer range Model 3 with the AMD Ryzen processors, the updated center console, the powered trunk, and the dual pane glass? Yeah, I could see a lot of people being willing to do that. Um, Trevor says a 120 volt connector only charges at 3 miles an hour versus 30 miles an hour in a 240 volt NEMA 1450. So if you drive more than 30 miles a day, you'll need a 240 volt. Nah, I don't think that's true because it depends on how often you're charging. And for one, I've seen people get faster than 3 miles an hour. We actually just talked about that on the EV podcast. Randy was getting more like 5 miles an hour, and he has a less efficient Model 3. If you have a newer Model 3 that's even more efficient, then you're probably more likely, you know, it doesn't directly translate miles per hour. It's all based on how much power your car needs to go 3 miles an hour. But if you get home, you know, if you're done with work at 5 o'clock and you plug in your car and you're getting 3 miles an hour and you charge it that night and then you charge it while you're sleeping and then you're ready to leave for the day at, I don't know, when some people, you know, maybe you leave at 5 in the morning, maybe you leave at 6 or 7 or 8, you know, some people leave at 8 in the morning. That's 15 hours of charging times 3 miles an hour. Let's assume you're right. That's still 45 miles of range you gained overnight charging with the 110 outlet. I think a lot of people still do that because like you said, the daily driving commute is around 30 to 40 miles, so that can cover daily driving. On a road trip, of course, you may want to top off, and there's still weekends. There's still some days where people drive less than 30 miles, and if their car is plugged in, then they kind of get to overlap that day and still gain range total. So I don't drive more than 30 miles a day on average. You know, occasionally we do a big road trip, and that probably would throw off the average, but with our kind of like daily driving, we could easily charge off the 110 outlet. It just depends on how long you're away from home. Gas prices are already going down. Well, even when gas prices were, you know, even when it was $2 a gallon, Tesla had no demand problem. So I'm not really sure what the mention about the gas prices is. I'm charging at 3 miles an hour. I get about 33 miles a day charging. It's about 11 hours a day. Yeah, it's dependent on your schedule. If someone is able to charge for 12 to 15 hours when they get home, basically as long as the car is home it's charging, then that may be enough. We went with long range and cheaper 18-inch wheels. We have to drive to and from our family ranch, so long range was a necessity. Otherwise we would have gone with a cheaper model. Yeah, I understand there's a market for it. I'm just not in it. And I'm grateful for it because it's a lot more expensive. I grew up 40 miles away from Normal. Good to see a business other than State Farm being big there. Wait, from the Rivian plant? Is that the Normal you're referring to? That'd be pretty cool. I wish I'd lived closer to the Rivian factory. If you drive more than 30 miles or 45 miles a day, you'll need a 120 volt. I think you mean 240, but no, I still double down. It depends on your schedule. If you can charge for 15 hours a day, which some people can, then you could still live with the 120. Out of curiosity, did you try some of the other EVs out there, or just stuck on Tesla for the technology? I did. If you scroll back on this channel, I did test drive the ID4. I test drove the Mach-E. Mike test drove it, but I was with him. We checked out the Ioniq 5. I was in the passenger seat, and I was playing with the screen and everything. There's not a ton of other EVs out there that I'm super interested in. I guess I would have liked to test drive a Bolt. I've just been so busy driving, and I have to drive a gas car if I want to test drive a Bolt, so I gotta spend a lot of money on gas if I want to try one out. But yeah, I think of the most interesting ones, the ID4 was the closest, in my opinion, to winning me over from not buying a Tesla. But yeah, it's the software, I think. Like, I've checked out other EVs, obviously, but none of them, and obviously the Rivian, I've sat in several Rivians I didn't get to drive one, but I went to the First Mile event several times and got to play around with it and sit in it and mess with the screen. Rivian is awesome, just out of my price range, but there's just a different design fundamentally, like on the interior, on how the screen is laid out and how the software works on pretty much any non-Tesla I've used. Rivian's been the closest to coming up to like the display of the car being very close to as responsive or as capable as my smartphone or as my computer. Like when I use the infotainment and when I use the software on an ID4 or on a Mach-E or on an Ioniq 5, it still just has that legacy auto, we don't really know how to design software feel to it. It has this like 10-year-old Android tablet feel of like, okay, we got to put the data here and here's our little icon. And there's not like this consistency with the UI that Tesla has. And when I got to test drive the Model 3, when I was up in Washington, it just kind of reaffirmed all of my preferences of like, I know it sounds like a minor thing to some, but to me it's major. Is like that screen in the Tesla is really what wins me over. It's like the biggest screen you can get that's of actual usable space in a car of that price. Like there's other cars that have like speedometer and gauge clusters that are pretty big, but they're not touch. You can't reach through the steering wheel and touch them. This is like I can actually watch YouTube videos on this, which I do plan on utilizing. And just the simplicity of it is so much more pleasing to me. Just having that clean dash, not having all these buttons and dials, and just not having excess that doesn't need to be there. Like whoever designed that Model 3 interior, I don't know if Franz was in charge of the exterior and the interior, I don't know, but whoever designed that entire interior really had my kind of personality, because I like that kind of minimal, simplistic look. I don't like busyness. I don't like all of the buttons and dials that I found in ID4s or Mach-E's or Ioniq 5s, and they're all good cars. That they get pretty good range, and they have decent charging capability. I haven't test drove the EV6 yet, but that was another EV that on paper at least I was looking at it and I was like, this is really tempting because the range is great, the fast charging is awesome, the cargo space is good, but it's just that tech, that software. And I'm also just a big fan of the elegance and simplicity of autopilot and how easy it is to turn on. Plus, I'm very curious. I want to try out the FSD beta stuff. I'm not one of those people convinced that we're going to have robotaxis, that your car is going to make you money one day. I'm becoming an increasingly large skeptic on that, but I still see a lot of value in there being self-driving features and driver assist. And from the videos I've seen and from the comparisons I've done between driver assist in non-Teslas versus Tesla, I still think Tesla's is the best. It's maybe a personal preference thing. You're welcome to disagree, but that's just where I feel on it. So yeah, and the supercharging is so simple. Like another thing that's really annoyed me whenever watching videos of non-Teslas is just like kind of the complexity of Electrify America stations. Like I could live with it. I'm sure I could. I could figure out like, okay, if you're driving this kind of EV, park in this stall, and this is the fast charging stall, and then you got to plug in, you got to get the Electrify America membership to get this deal. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. Christian says Tesla uses a fork of React Web for their head units. Other brands use CMake, which is terrible UI rendering library. Really? Christian, you know some things I do not know. React Web for their head units. Other brands use CMake. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but there's a different feel. There's a different level of responsiveness, especially after I had extensive time using the AMD Ryzen Model 3. That screen is just very responsive. It launches things so quickly, and it feels, even though it's not a 120 hertz display, which I'm a big fan of, but it still feels like as responsive as an iPad. And I don't get that same feeling. I don't get that same impression when I use other EVs. But the simplicity of a supercharger, like it's just automatically baked into the UI. You plug in a destination and it knows where to stop. It knows how many stalls are available. When I test drove the ID4, it wasn't capable of doing that. I think they may have updated it now so that when you plug in a route, your ID4 can schedule Electrify America stops. I haven't kept up with that, so I'm not entirely sure if they fixed it. But back when I test drove it, that wasn't a thing. Like, you had to manually plan your own stops, even though the ID4 is a great value. Like, the range is pretty great, and I like the design. I think it's a very cool-looking SUV, or crossover, maybe I should say. And the one I checked out was cheaper than the Model 3 we're buying. Like, it was more affordable. The charging was decently fast, and it came with 3 years of free Electrify America charging, which was cool, but I know that's finite. So just the whole process of CCS and the flaps and the bigger connector and having to use different stations and tell it like I want to charge, or you swipe my card and trying to do plug and charge and that kind of thing. Um, Better route planner, you'd have to use that separately, I guess, but I just like the simplicity of the supercharger network. I'm not against buying a non-Tesla in the future, but the other thing you'd have to convince is my wife. When I talk about like, hey, would you want to consider like maybe if the Model Y is so expensive, maybe in the future if we want a crossover, we should get an EV6, and she was just like, I don't know about that. I don't like. She's not super into the non-Teslas so far. Of the ones we've checked out, I think she liked the ID4 more than the Ionic 5. But she didn't say she would choose that over a Tesla. She's still pretty convinced. But thank you for the super chat, Christine. That was nice. React is a web app framework from Meta. Oh, Meta. Oh no. I love the interior in my new Model Y. 1 week old. I'm trying to use voice commands as much as possible to keep my eyes on the road. That's good on you, Steve. Well done. Did you know that apparently you will soon be able to play Steam games on Tesla? I've seen talk of that for months and very little action on it. I remember at the Plaid Model S event last year in 2021, I think it was in June, they said that you were going to be able to play Cyberpunk and The Witcher on the new Model S, and they still haven't done that. That was over a year ago, and that feature's still not there. So I know Elon said that they were kind of discussing whether or not they wanted to like optimize games directly for the Tesla or find some kind of one size fits all to bring all Steam games to the Tesla. That seems like a better way to handle it, but I'm not really that big of a gamer, so that's not a huge incentive for me, but I'm glad it's coming. I hope it comes. I think it'd be really cool. It'd be a great selling point. Another very small detail though that really wins me over with the Tesla over a non-Tesla is the USB-C ports in the center console on the Model 3 that I checked out, which is a 2022 build. They support up to 36 watts of charging. Those are not small basic phone chargers. Those can actually power your laptop. At least if you have a MacBook. It's probably not going to power your gaming laptop that has, 140 watts of power draw, but my MacBook Pro is pretty efficient. And I was able to take that in the Tesla when we were test driving it overnight, and I plugged it in, and it could hold the charge, and it was actually gaining percentage as I was working on it. And I love the idea of being able to work in the car. I want to kind of convert it into a little office, because in here, obviously, if you guys have seen my live streams before, it gets very hot. It gets really hot in here because the audio from the air conditioner, plus I'm talking pretty loudly, and there's other people in the house, so I leave the door shut. I would love to be able to do these live streams or to make EV videos and just be in the car, and I can run the HVAC at a very, very low setting so that you can't hear it, and it keeps me cool. I can have my laptop powered through that 36 watt charge port, and I don't know if other EVs that have charge ports that can output at that wattage. Maybe you'd have to buy like an inverter to get a full 110 outlet, but that's kind of my solution to the sweating, because I know we're getting the car regardless, and we could get like a whole separate AC system just installed for this room, but that's probably going to be problematic, and we're going to have to drill holes and kind of expensive, and I'm already limited on power outlets in here. There's not too many power outlets in this room, so we'd have to probably run wire, and I don't know. It seems like a big headache. I'd rather just like sit in the car. And I know the seats in the Model 3 are very, very comfortable. Ryan says, honestly, the Rivian is the best EV for my needs that I've seen so far. That's great. I love the Rivian. I wish I could justify it. I just don't. My lifestyle doesn't warrant it. I almost wish I could change my lifestyle to justify getting a Rivian, but I know that's irresponsible. Like, I'm going to change what I do in my free time just so that I can justify buying a car, but I know I probably am not going to do that. King of Florida says you should save for a Model X in the future. It's not high on my priority list. And I would have a hard time justifying it just because, it's mostly just me and my wife driving around. So buying a big less efficient, more expensive car just for me and my wife. We rarely have that much cargo. Maybe if we decided to have a big family in the future, I could justify it, but you know, it's so much easier to say like, well, maybe we should save like, $40,000 and just buy a Model Y or I don't know, even more, save $60,000 and buy a non-Tesla crossover for when we need a bunch of people. Um, you need cooled seats. HVAC might be a bit too noisy when recording in the car, but there's something for you to test and hopefully in the near future. I did test it with the test drive Model 3 and it wasn't too loud. I'm not gonna run it at full blast, but I'll run it at, because it's such a small enclosed space. You can run the HVAC at a pretty low setting and it still keeps the entire car cooled. So yeah, cooled seats would be nice, but I don't think necessary. Can you claim to have an RV and get Starlink for your Tesla? Yeah, you don't you don't have to confirm that you have an RV to order Starlink for RV, but it would be like $110 a month. And I'm probably better off just using hotspot data. There's a lot cheaper options if you want cellular on the road. I don't have a VIN yet, sorry, but my girlfriend has ID4 on order. Tesla was too expensive. I test drove it, was the closest to Tesla. I personally like the Ioniq 5 and EV6 exterior design. Yeah, I think I like the EV6 better, but I'm happy for you, CZR. I hope you like the ID4. They're pretty common around here. I've actually seen quite a few. Jacob says, I'm going on a 1,000-mile road trip today, and it's only going to be 4 charging stops, 2 on the way there, 2 on the way back. That's pretty good. Dang. Oscar Barraza says, are you planning on getting FSD capability or just subscribing for when you go on long trips? Yeah, I don't plan on paying $12,000 for it just because that's a lot of money, and I think you could invest that in stock and probably have it outperform what you would lose out on by subscribing. And I'm not totally convinced on the car suddenly driving itself all by completely. I would be more interested in paying outright for it if it was tied to the account, but if I spend $12,000, that's gonna go in the car. So if the car is totaled, I don't get FSD back, and I don't even know if insurance would cover FSD. I still can't get a straight answer from that, and I don't know which insurance provider I'm going with. So maybe Tesla insurance covers FSD, but I don't know if other insurance providers do that are cheaper, or if it's going to drive my insurance rates up if they know they have to cover the price of FSD on my next car. So I would much rather just subscribe to it a couple months out of the year. Like, I don't plan on subscribing to it every like month or something like that. You haven't tested it in California weather. It was 100 degrees outside. So I wasn't in California, but it was California weather. Set the AC to low and manually control the fan speed, super cold and quiet. Yeah, that's what I did. It was pretty effective. I was happy with it. Oh, sorry, I read that. The supercharging trip to Florida from Georgia have turned from planning supercharging stops to stopping when someone has to pee. There are stations popping up on I-75 every couple months. Yeah, that's great. They're basically deploying more superchargers than they ever have. So that definitely provides an extra level of confidence on our road trips. Have you thought about pushing delivery to January 1st for the rebate up to $7,500? I have thought about it, and I've decided no. One, because I'm sick of paying for gas and not having autopilot on my drives. For two, there's not like a guaranteed way to say push delivery to January 1st. I've seen a lot of people in the subreddit say that if you push delivery, you basically will get put in the back of the line. And there's some people that have even said that if you push delivery too far, they will just cancel your order outright. And you lose your deposit, which is really messed up. And I don't think Tesla should do that. But there has been cases of that happening. And because of the order agreement and because of the fine print, they legally protect themselves. So they're allowed to do that, basically. Now you can buy the $6,000 enhanced autopilot option. Thoughts on getting that? I did. I'm still mostly convinced that just paying, because $6,000 is cheaper, but what's also a lot cheaper is just $200 a month for 3 or 4 months out of the year. That's going to probably be less than $1,000, and I'm kind of curious how those videos will perform, because it's fun to beta test stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like I would enjoy seeing how the beta performs, but the truth is, based on the conversations I've had with my good friends Mike and Randy on the EV podcast, both of them will confirm that the wives do not like FSD beta being on. And I don't expect my wife to be much different. She's not really super comfortable with autopilot at this point. Like when I used it, when we were up north test driving, it made her a little bit nervous just using basic autopilot. And I'm sure the FSD beta will probably make my wife uncomfortable. So most of the time I'm using beta is going to be when I'm driving by myself, which is not terribly common. And I also think that most of the time I drive somewhere, my wife is usually with me, and I would be willing to pay more for FSD beta if I could justify it for my job. Like if my business can warrant, like, okay, I'm gonna post videos showing how FSD beta performs in my area. Here's because there's a bunch of areas I want to try it on already. There's places I want to drive to, like in my hometown, that I'm aware of, that are like, this is a weird intersection, or this is a really weird turn, this is a blind corner. I want to see how beta handles this kind of blind exit. So there's places I want to try, but I kind of need to see how the videos perform. Like if I do an FSD beta video and like no one watches it, like none of you guys care because they're like, oh, Drew, we already watched beta videos, then I can't really justify paying $200 a month to make videos that generate $20 in ad rev. But if I do FSD beta videos and they perform pretty well, and I can do like maybe 4-6 videos a month, and those videos perform and can justify the subscription, maybe they're making $100 or $200 in ad revenue, then I could say, okay, these videos kind of pay for themselves and I can justify the subscription. But we're gonna see how those videos perform. I don't know, maybe people don't care how my beta performs. Christian, thank you for the super chat. Did you see the Mexico to Texas Tesla lane? Is it for importing parts? It is for, yeah, I did see that. That was in the news. That's kind of crazy to have their own lane. But sorry, John, I didn't completely answer your question. The other issue I have is I'm not completely sure if the Model 3 rear-wheel drive qualifies for the new federal tax credit. For one, it's not passed into law yet. It's not even official. It's passed the House, and most people are speculating that the tax credit will be passed, but we don't know for sure at this time. So if it's still up in the air and I delay order and then it ends up not going through, because I remember this whole situation last year. Everyone was convinced that there was going to be a new tax credit, and then at the last second it got canceled, and it didn't happen. So I still think there's a decent chance of that happening, or maybe not canceled, but severely limited in its eligibility. But there's a part of the tax credit that says the battery pack in the EV needs to be like a certain percentage source from U.S. materials, and my Model 3's lithium iron phosphate batteries coming from China. So I've seen people go back and forth online. Some people are saying like, well, it's assembled in the U.S., and some people are like, no, because of the materials where it comes from. There's a lot of people saying that it might not qualify. So it's like, okay, there's a theoretical law that might pass that might discount my vehicle if I can delay it, and it might not qualify. So I'm kind of like, it's too out there. I've been waiting so long for this car. I'm not trying to push it off. Yeah, it'd be kind of nice to get $7,500 tax credit. Yeah, that's what we're saying now, Ryan. The House should pass it, but that's what we all said about the last tax credit. Like, everyone was convinced the last tax credit was going to be passed, and then it didn't. It's not 100% guaranteed, Jonathan. There's a difference. It's likely, but I wouldn't use the term 100% because there were a lot of people saying that about the last one. There is that temperature difference between your feet and your head. It's a bit uncomfortable, but adjusting the AC should help with that. Oh, Jonathan, he was answering Jonathan. I'm 6'1", and I found the glass roof too close to my head even after adjusting the seat. Felt like I was baking in an oven. It wasn't a great experience for me. Yeah, I've heard people have gotten these kind of like sun shade things on the glass roofs. Jackson says, are you selling your old car or keeping it? I think for at least a couple months we're going to keep it just because we have a lot of family that are visiting and they like to have a car when they're visiting and they don't want to rent a car. So we're not going to use it for much. We're going to do the bulk of the driving with the Tesla, and we'll just kind of keep it around in case, like if if the Tesla has some terrible issue in the first month of ownership and it needs to go to a service center, it'd be nice to have a backup car. So we're not trying to like sell the car the day we get the Model 3, but like we'll hold on to it for a little while and see how it feels to be like a 2-car household again. And if it feels like if it feels like we're not getting much use out of it and there's not much of a point in having 2 cars, then we'll sell it. But yeah, we'll probably hold on to it. Test driving a Tesla 3 and putting the AC on full blast and going through the menu to have it pointed up at my head. Couldn't feel it, like trying to put a handheld fan against a tire. Yeah, some people just built different. That's how my friend Nick felt when he test drove the Model 3. He was just like, yeah, no, I can't do this. This is too small. He's pretty tall. I think he's like 6'7". So the Model 3 didn't work too well for him. Thank you, Tesla Charged. Appreciate it. The tax credit should be passed for customer savings, but will it even have an effect in the increasing EV adoption anyway? I don't think we have a problem. No, Marngel, I'm 100% with you. I don't think that EV tax credit will have really any impact on EV adoption. Like we've seen with Ford, as soon as the tax credit is, likely to pass, or as Jonathan would say, 100% guaranteed to pass, I'll hold you to that. If it doesn't pass, I'm gonna remember that comment. But like, what was I saying? Oh, the F-150 Lightning, that's what it was. They rose the prices on all of the Lightnings, even on reservation holders, by like over $7,000. $8,000 for some. So it's like, okay, EVs are more affordable, and then the MSRP is like, and it jumps right up again. So it's like, what did this accomplish? I guess it means Ford has, I shouldn't say thicker profit margins, I should say less of a loss. They're losing less money on their EVs now, which I guess is a good sign. But the increased MSRP makes the total price of the vehicle when you buy it, increases the sales tax, it increases the loan payments, which increases the interest you pay on your car. It's just
yes.
It's just overall not doing much. But hey, wow, thank you for the super chat, Pierre Williams. He says, anyone ordering a new Model S, Model SR, what do you mean by SR? I have a second one on order that I'm no longer taking delivery of. Ordered before the price hike. Delivery within the next 2 months. I'll transfer my reservation number for free. Wow. Well, I appreciate the donation, but live chat is probably not a great way to contact people just because there's like no way to email. So I don't know if you could even do that. Can you transfer reservation numbers? I didn't know that was a thing. I would go on a subreddit if you're interested in trying to get people to take over. Ordered before the price hike. But yeah, I guess Pierre Williams, if you have a Twitter or something, or yeah, I would check around elsewhere. Everything you said is true about Model 3 rear-wheel drive. I've ordered the same vehicle spec, but I think waiting 3 to 4 months is worth the theoretical discount. I'm still not convinced that even if the tax credit passes that it'll qualify, because there's a pretty big clause in the tax credit that says the materials need to be sourced from the U.S., and that's not the case with the rear-wheel drive. So I think I could easily end up delaying my delivery because you don't have a guarantee. You can't just say I delay my delivery till January 1st. That's not how it works. If Tesla says your order is ready now and you say I'm not ready, I want to push off delivery, then you just are at the mercy of when another model pops up. That could come up in September, October, and they could try again. And then you go, no, I'm waiting for the tax credit. I'm not interested. They could try again in November, December, and you say, no, I'm not interested. And then they could just cancel your order entirely, and then you have to start this whole process over again. And you're going to have to pay a premium because you don't get your old grandfathered pricing. And even if you do get it pushed till next year, you may be waiting till February, March. It's not necessarily a 3-month wait. This could be a 6 to 12-month wait, depending on how demand goes. So it seems like a gamble. It seems like you're paying Russian roulette to the tax credit to be. You can do what you want. It's your life. It's your money. So if you're willing to delay delivery to try to qualify for the tax credit, you go ahead, but I'm not doing it. It seems too sketchy to me and too up in the air. SR probably means standard range. Okay. So he probably has ordered before the price hike. Which one, though? That's the real question. Buy the sunshade. It's well worth it. Amazon has a few for only $50. Okay, that might be the solution. Skylar says, if you're looking for cheap insurance, check out smaller AI-based companies you've never heard of, like Clearcover or Lemonade. Super cheap. They have good reviews and their apps are user-friendly. Are those the kind that you have to run the app on your phone every time you drive the car, and it monitors like driving behavior and that kind of stuff? Are those even a thing in California? California has some weird insurance laws. Um, you guys are paying cash upon delivery, right? Yes, that's the plan. That's what we're ready for. Um, but oh, you know what, guys? I wanted to mention something because I'm excited that my delivery window. Let's just see. Imagine if it updated while I was live streaming. That would be hilarious. No, okay, so it still hasn't updated, but there's actually been quite a lot of people getting VINs and even taking delivery of the Model 3 rear-wheel drive that ordered after me. So this is what kind of kills me inside, by the way, when I'm like waiting for updates on my car, I'm waiting to get a VIN and all that. I have to show you this because it's kind of hilarious how it works. And it says a lot about how, I see in the comments a lot on my videos, like, I have an early Cybertruck VIN, so I'm going to get in the first. It's like, there is no line. Like, there is no, like, these people ordered first, so they should get their vehicle first, because just as a reminder, I ordered my Model 3 on March 2nd of this year. And now check out this subreddit stats I've been finding. This person received a VIN after exactly 5 months, and their estimated delivery date is before me, August 11th to August 17th, so that's a much earlier window. But they're going to have to delay it. But they're based in Georgia, and they ordered over a week after I did, March 10th. White on white, aero wheels, no FSD. It's the exact same Model 3 as me, ordered after, but they got a VIN, and they have an earlier delivery window. And they're way further from the factory than I am. And yes, there's more. Someone just got a VIN who ordered March 8th, so this was a little over a week after me, but almost the exact same spec. Rear-wheel drive, white on white, aero wheels, no FSD. They're based in Dallas, and their estimated delivery date is August 20th to 24th, so also an earlier delivery window than mine. Check in here. Just got their VIN ordered on March 18th. Same exact model as me, white on white. They're in Toronto. They're in Canada, and they got their VIN with the estimated delivery date is August 24th, which is also, their latest is August 27th. My delivery date still goes into September, which is quite hilarious. This person ordered March 11th. They had the blue exterior, but still the white interior. They're based in Los Angeles, and they just got their VIN. And their estimated delivery date is August 9th, so they might even have their car by now. But yeah, they ordered over a week after I did. And they got their VIN, and they're probably a little bit further from the factory than me, Los Angeles compared to Fremont, and pretty equal distance, I guess. But someone actually even took delivery, received their Model 3. When was this? This was 3 days ago, and they ordered on March 29th. So, like, over 3 weeks after I did. They did get the black interior with the 19-inch sport wheels, so it's a different spec, but they're in Florida. They ordered after me, and they're on the other side of the country, and they got their car before I did. From the delivery posts that I found, it, to me, seems like people who order the 19-inch sport wheels get their cars a bit faster, because I think Tesla builds those more in bulk. Or they build those first. But I really don't want the 19-inch sport wheels. For one, I don't really like the way they look, and I don't like how they affect your efficiency. But yeah, I'm not really a fan of the sport wheels. So I'm not willing to pay the extra money to hope accelerate delivery. But Ivan says, went to Tesla takeover on Saturday, and Sandy Monroe spoke, said he has it on good authority that the Cybertruck will use a hairpin motor. Okay, I've got to research that. I want to hear what Sandy said. I didn't see if anyone posted the whole interview yet. Are you able to tint your Tesla windows like a normal gas car? If so, will you do it with yours? I don't really have a desire to. Some people do that. If it's a privacy thing, I don't know, but I don't really plan on putting anything valuable back there in the first place. But yeah, I don't care. I don't care about tinted windows. Did you see Louis Rossman deconstruct your Ben Gay video years ago? I made several response videos, but I guess you didn't see those. Um, While I was sitting here listening to you, I got my delivery date for next Saturday. Really? Oh, wow. DJ got his delivery date as we were live. That's cool. Why can't that happen to me? I keep refreshing all day. I keep waiting for any and all updates because I don't want to have to drive back to San Francisco in my gas car. I'm so sick. Can the Model 3 rear-wheel drive receive a partial tax credit of $37.50 instead of the full tax credit because it's built in North America? It's up in the air right now. It's not really decided at this point, and it's not super clear if it will qualify for any kind of tax credit. So that's partly because of those batteries. John W. Davis says, maybe Hertz has been taking all of our Model 3 rear-wheel drives, and that's why your dates are being pushed back. I wouldn't be surprised if that's it, and it's also not just Hertz. There's a new startup. I'm not sure if they're a startup, but there's like a subscription-based rental company that has bought, I think the article said they're buying 200 Teslas per week, and they had the Model 3 rear-wheel drive in stock when I checked. So they're buying a bunch of cars and then just basically renting them out for months at a time, and that's their whole business. So yeah, that could affect the rear-wheel drive. The fact that there was a big gap, there was clearly, I was monitoring the deliveries, and there was definitely like a big 3-month block where there was almost nobody getting Model 3 rear-wheel drives, and now there seems to be another uptick. There's actually been deliveries. I didn't even mention on that list of people Chris from Dirty Tesla. I'm a huge fan of his channel, and I've talked to him many times. He's a great guy, but I still have this kind of friendly, not rivalry, but like friendly anger towards him because he ordered my exact spec. He got the white on white with the 18-inch wheels, no FSD. He ordered it after I did and took delivery of it. He ordered like 2 months after I did, and he took delivery of it a couple weeks ago. And he's so far from the Fremont factory. He's out in Michigan. And I checked with him. I was like, do you know when it was built? And he said it was built in July. So this was not some like old Model 3 that was sitting in Michigan for a long time. This was a new build that was closer to me when at completion, and I had ordered before he did, and they chose to put it on a truck, ship it out to Michigan, and deliver it to him, despite ordering way after I did. So there's not really like a chronological line of like this person ordered this day, this person ordered this day, and it's not even really that dependent on if you're close to the factory, because I'm much closer to the factory than all the people that I showed you on the Model 3 standard range delivery subreddit. I was basically closer than all of them, and they all ordered after I did and got very similar orders or very similar specs and got VINs before I did or delivery before I did. So there's not a very chronological order to the order page. Oliver says, I ordered March 2nd too, delivery window in December, based in Paris, France. Oh, wow. Well, I'm sorry you have to wait so long, but I guess you are pretty far from the factory. So, yeah, Bob says they're watching your channel saying don't send his yet. I have seen people theorize that. They're like, maybe they don't like it when you like say bad things about Tesla. They see that and they're like, well, he's a guaranteed sale. We can take our time with his car. But other people might get upset if we're late, so we better be careful. We better accelerate delivery. I actually forgot you were in California, so sorry if that's not helpful. Yeah, I don't know where Lemonade qualifies you. If the EV tax credit passes, can a future president get rid of the EV tax credits? Also, will midterms make the EV tax credits pass easier? I'm not an expert on tax credits. My guess is yes. I think that they probably, if another president probably could remove EV tax credits, but all I'm trying to tell you is don't put much faith or don't put much value in EV tax credit passes. If it's a guaranteed pass, which it's not right now, despite what others have said, if they know for sure that the tax credit is passing, everyone's just going to do what Ford did and increase prices. And it's probably going to hurt the cost of buying an EV more because it's a federal tax credit. It's not an EV rebate. It's not deducted from the price of the vehicle, which means that, yes, you get $7,500 on your taxes, off your taxes, but that really helps you in tax season It's not particularly helpful when you're buying the EV, because if all the prices go up because of the tax credit, then you have to pay more sales tax. Or if you're doing a loan, you have to pay more for your loan. You have to pay higher interest rates. So it doesn't really address the main problem with EV adoption, which is not affordability. It has everything to do with availability, and production capacity is the main issue. So all the tax credit theoretically does is increase demand for EVs. So if you have to change it, like if you have to increase prices, then it doesn't really result in that big of it doesn't really result in that big of an impact. A lot of people keep saying it's point of sale, but that's not what a federal tax credit is. That doesn't make sense. But even more so, my point is even stronger if it is point of sale, because I don't pay super close attention to the tax credits because I know that they don't have that big an impact. But if it is point of sale, expect all the prices to go up. Everything will go up by $7,000 or more, because all it does is jump up the price, jump up demand of EVs. It's a law. It would have to be changed by Congress, which can happen. I've seen it happen. It could happen again. It's a very, very generous tax credit, which is why I'm still skeptical of it actually passing. Because it doesn't have like a build limit. If it is point of sale, then they're definitely going to raise the prices across the board, no question. If it is point of sale, then they can get away with charging way more. That's why Ford raised prices. Well, expect everyone else to do it. The only people that may benefit from the tax credit are EVs, are people interested in EVs that are not selling very well. So if you're interested in the Chevy Bolt, which is having quite a demand problem, then the tax credit's kind of helpful. But if the sedan is over $55,000, it doesn't qualify, so the Lucid Air wouldn't get it. And if the pickup truck is over $80,000, then it wouldn't get it. So I don't think your Cybertruck would qualify. Again, it doesn't really. Most of the EV market in the United States is Tesla, right? And Tesla has no issues with demand. In fact, they have quite an insane backlog. The fact that Giga Texas is ramping and the wait times aren't going down is actually quite concerning to me. The fact that there's never been more Model Ys built than before, and yet we still can't keep up. You would think that if you had two factories mass producing Model Ys, that would start to lower the wait times, but it's not. So if the tax credit officially passes, and okay, it's point of sale, I stand corrected. I'm sorry. I don't pay attention to the tax credit because I don't think it pertains to me, and I don't think it's basically gonna cause what happened with Ford. Yay, we got a $7,500 tax credit. Oh, all the EVs are $7,500 more expensive. Great. What was accomplished? What happened? Like, it doesn't change anything. That's why I'm not that interested in it. But if it passes and Tesla gets another huge uptick in Model Y orders, they're just going to raise the prices again, like they always have. It's always been a supply and demand discussion. It's not like we can't find a way to lower the prices, because Tesla has insanely good margins right now. Industry-leading margins. So it's not that there's not a way to lower the prices. It's just that there's no point in lowering prices. You'd be leaving free money on the table. They focus on shipping cars outside of California early in the quarter, then switch to shipping within California closer to end of quarter. That's true. So when is end of quarter? It would be September, right? I guess that would increase the likelihood that I'll get my car next month. Although I hope I get it sooner than that. Tesla would have to reduce the price of the long-range Model 3 to qualify for the tax credit. They can't trade prices in any cars. Why would they? They have no motivation to. Like, all that would do is make the car have higher demand, which it already has insane demand. You just want it to have more insaner demand? I don't think they would do it. Like, I could be wrong, but I don't see Tesla lowering prices to qualify for tax credits. I've seen Tesla raise prices in Canada so that they no longer qualify for Canadian tax credits. Like, Tesla has actively shown and proven that they do not care if they qualify for tax credits or not, as long as there's no demand problem. And right now, we could not be further from having a demand problem. Like, a year ago, demand was not this bad, and it seems to just get worse and worse and worse. Ford increased prices, but now they don't qualify for the tax credit. That's hilarious. They raise prices because of the tax credit, but also they don't get it. Oh, great. Tesla's profit margins are way up even with increased prices of supplies. They are raising prices to a far greater degree than inflation. Yeah. And I call BS on that with Elon. I don't think the prices of Teslas are high because of inflation. That's nonsense. I don't know why he says that. I'm personally very confused by his logic there because it has everything to do with supply and demand. And it's not just pure greed keeping prices high when you have an overwhelming demand. That's just logical. That's just you're leaving free money on the table if you're letting people lock in prices on vehicles, or let's say like we just want them to be affordable, even if that means the wait time is 3 years. As long as it's affordable, that's what matters. And it's like, okay, now people are buying we already have this problem. Hertz is buying them in bulk and renting them out because they realize they're profitable assets. They're not even liabilities anymore. They can buy these things in bulk and rent them out and make money off of them. Or people can buy them up and they hold their value so well because they're so high in demand and the wait times are so long, you can easily flip them for a profit. So all that really does is create a bunch of non-official dealers that start buying up the cars and flipping them, and other customers that really want the car are paying a premium for them. It's just Tesla's not getting that premium. So I would much rather Tesla get that premium than some random guy that's not trying to accelerate EV development, that's not trying to build more EVs. Just some random guy wants to make money off the car. So he keeps buying them in bulk. It's not, from a logistics standpoint and from a profit standpoint, it's just not sensical to keep EV prices low if your demand is this high. Like, I don't think, even though it's technically possible, like, I think if their average gross margin is around like 30% at this point, they could probably sell the Model 3 for like $35,000. Maybe a little bit more than that, but they could probably comfortably sell it for much lower than 40 grand. But the wait time would be like 4 years. Is that better? Is that a better situation to have a bunch of people waiting for years and a bunch of scalpers making money off the product? I don't see how that's better. To me, that would be a worse situation. I would rather Tesla take that profit and put it towards making more EVs so that we don't have to wait 4 years for our cars. That's what I would prefer. Gas inflation makes people to buy more EV. Well, it definitely encourages it, but it's not required. Tesla had a big demand wave even before gas prices skyrocketed. Let's see. I'm at work, but it's still your boy. Mr. Flyboy is so consistent. He's always tuning in. It's your boy. I think he said it was a combination of inflation and demand. I didn't hear that part, but I did hear him say that if inflation trended downward, we would consider lowering prices, and I don't agree with that. I call complete baloney. That's not true. Even if inflation completely stopped, you can't really reverse inflation, but if inflation hit 0%, Tesla would still have a demand backlog. And there's no point in lowering prices with a demand backlog. There's no sense in that. White or black interior? I got the white interior. New to this channel, I'm a member on Taylors of Tech. Love the content on this channel for EV. Oh, thank you, Divot. Yeah, I recognize you. I see you over there. Not to mention that if Tesla didn't make so much money on their cars, they wouldn't be able to build to money burning gigafactories at the same time. That's true. You can invest more in future production capacity. You can invest more in building new batteries and signing supply chain deals when you're making very, very healthy margins. Michael Super Ted, he says, your car is going to get delayed, not going to lie. You're probably right, Michael. You're probably right. The question is just how much. How much is the delay going to be? How bad is the delay going to be? Oh, this might be fun. We should do a poll. Will you do a video on the luxury goods tax in Canada? Any vehicle over $100,000 is subject to it. Business pays it, but it will be passed on to customer. I don't know much about it, and I don't really have a ton of viewers in Canada, so I'm not sure if I would do a whole video on it, but any vehicle over 100,000, I do kind of have to agree that is a luxury vehicle. So if you have that kind of money, you probably, I don't know how much the tax is, but let me find a poll. Will I get my car? Oh, I should say, when will I get my car? And then we'll have a few options. When will I get my Model 3? I want to see what the chat thinks and who ends up being right, because my delivery window starts tomorrow and it goes till September 9th, but obviously we expect that to change because given I don't have a VIN. September, October, um, November, or later. That's the most amount of options I can vote. Deflation is a thing, but that really only happens when there's an oversupply or a depression. In the United States, I doubt it. I doubt we'll see deflation again. Um, Imagine how much you're really obsessed with the stock compensation, but you insist on it being described in price. Stock is not a set price. Oh, we've been down that train before. Giving someone shares of a company is not the same as giving someone cash, and you can't pay for factories in shares of a company. The shares of a company are constantly changing. Cash is a fixed price. Oh wow, yeah, the votes are interesting. A lot of people saying next month. Post delivery video of on both tech and EV. I don't know why I would need to post about it on tech, but maybe I'll retweet it or something. Jacob says, if Tesla lowers the price of the long range to qualify for the tax credit, it would help equalize the demand between long range and standard range, plus if more switch to long range. Both are back ordered. It doesn't matter. Like, I don't see how it would equalize demand because it would probably just result in a bunch of people going with the long range over the standard range. But either way, there's a back order, regardless of if it qualifies for the tax credit. I ordered 10th of June. Delivery window is late November to mid-December. Oh, okay. I'm going to call Tesla and ask them to hurry up for you. Thank you, Bob. Bob is going to get me my car. I appreciate that. Margel says I'm going to be optimistically realistic and say September. Okay. Maybe I'll get my car before the new iPhone drops. I guess that's possible. But no, Tesla. I think Tesla would have worse margins because they would have to lower the price of the vehicle anyway. If you lowered the price of the long range, that would just increase demand for it, and there's already like a 6-month wait on the long range. So, did you order your mobile connector? They don't come with the car. No, mine does. If you ordered, I forget the date. I think it's like April 26th or something. If you ordered your car before April 26th, I think you get the mobile connector included for free. So, no, I have not ordered a separate mobile connector, and they seem to be honoring that code as well, because everyone who's taken delivery of a Model 3 rear-wheel drive in the subreddit recently has still had the mobile connector. I actually haven't seen anybody take delivery of the car without a mobile connector yet. I haven't seen that happen. Or no, I think maybe Chris from Dirty Tesla. Could that be the reason he got his Sooners, because they didn't have to include the mobile connector? I wish I could opt for that. I wish I could tell them, like, hey, just give me my car if it means I don't have to get the mobile connector. If that's what's holding me back, then I would be willing to sacrifice. Most of your audience is there, and it's a pretty big deal in your life. Plus, there's a lot of tech stuff in the Model 3. Yeah, but if they're interested in Tesla stuff, they know about this channel, and if they don't know about this channel or they don't care about this channel, it's probably because they don't care about Tesla stuff. Did you start talking about the incentive and how half the credit is in 2023 and the other half is in 2024? No, I didn't, but regardless, I don't think you should ask or care too much about the tax credit, because ultimately it's probably not going to make that big a difference on the price of your car. If there would be way more orders for the long range, they would make more money. Not if you lower the price. That's you'd have to lower the price by like $3,000 per car. That's not nothing. I don't know what the profit margin is. If we assume like a gross margin, I know it's not this, but if we like assumed a gross margin of 30%, then maybe they make around 17 grand per car. But you're saying that in order to qualify for the tax credit, they got to shave off $3,000. Again, yeah, a lot of people might opt for the long range now instead of standard range, but you're making less money on the long range. So I don't see how that would I don't see how that's a good incentive for them. I don't think it's that much more expensive to produce than standard range. I think the LFP batteries are pretty cheap, and the fact that they have to use 2170 cells in the long range probably make it more pricey. Plus the dual motor, that's not super expensive, but it does play an effect. Does the car come with carpets now? When I got my Model 3 a few years ago, I had to buy it separately. Yeah, I think we already have some floor mats for them. Yeah, we'll get some accessories. We'll do a whole accessory video and everything. Um, you like banana bread? Yeah. Yeah. If your mobile connector comes with the car, you only get the 110 plug if you pay $200 with your order. I already have the NEMA 1450. I know. I appreciate you trying to help me, Steve, but we thought about this a little bit. I bought the NEMA 1450 plug way back in 2019 because we thought we were going to get our car a lot sooner. And then we changed our Tesla plans and focused on paying off the house. But we've had the 1450 outlet for a while, and I know it comes with the 110 outlet. Um, Rear-wheel drive doesn't come with floor mats. Every other Tesla trim does. Yeah, I guess that's part of the partial premium interior. What do you expect to pay for California vehicle registration fees? I think it's something like, what is it, $200 a year? I don't know. I looked it up the other day, and I remember being disappointed by it. It's not that low. Um, it might be. No, I think it's more than that in California. It's a disappointing number. It eats into your it eats into your gas saving. I think I saw one from Electric said up to $175 for your 2020 plug-in vehicles. I think it might be something like that. Um, you should honestly try asking if you can get it sooner if you remove the mobile connector. I have to admit the support agents, the guy I can text has not been very helpful at all. I've asked several questions and oftentimes been ghosted. Like if it's a question that I guess there isn't a good answer to, he'll just won't say anything. He'll just be like, "No." It just be like, "Sorry, we have no updates," or just say nothing. Like I asked, I right at the factory, "Is there any in inventory or any denied delivery that I can take?" And they're just like, "Nothing." I didn't hear anything from them for 2 months, and then they asked me if I wanted to trade in my vehicle after I had already selected on the website, no, I don't want to trade in my vehicle. Um, so they don't seem to be listening very well. But it might be worth giving a call. I think I heard someone say you can like call uh, delivery centers and try to get someone on the phone and say like, "Hey, where's my car? Is someone like denied delivery there?" Can't Tesla now increase the price of the Model 3 standard range by around $3,000 because for the consumer it would still be cheaper than before the incentive would decrease demand? I don't know about nothing seems to decrease demand, but yeah, Tesla can increase prices regardless of the tax credit. They've been doing it for years. Model Y is much more expensive now than it was a couple of years ago. It's gone up a ton. Um, at this point, Drew might as well wait to get the car that comes with a mobile connector since it's getting pretty close to delivery. We hope. It's hard to say. Like, the fact that I've gotten this close to my delivery window and it hasn't changed kind of gives me hope that we're close, but it's also not that narrow of a delivery window, so maybe that's why they don't care. I'll be very, very confused if they don't update this. Um, but there's other people in the subreddits that are far away that are getting their Model 3s and they're getting them with mobile connectors, so I don't think that's the reason. Um, but yeah, it might be worth, it might be worth checking with the delivery center that I'm scheduled to pick up from and just seeing if they have anything that's like not listed or if they have a VIN assigned to me that I don't know about or something like that. Um, so I don't know. I'm not ready to get a Tesla, but thinking of reserving it now and hoping I get it 6 months or more from now when I'll be ready. Thoughts trying to prevent the price increases. That's what's like so frustrating about these wait times, right? Like it's so annoying when you're like, well, I want to get the car when I have the money for the car, but I have to kind of predict when I will have the money for the car, and that's kind of dependent on like when the car is going to be ready, and the delivery estimates are kind of inaccurate. So yeah, I know exactly what you feel like, Tech Moments, because I've been in that situation. Um, it's kind of annoying. It's kind of frustrating. It's a price cutting measure carried over from standard range plus days. Isn't a big deal since you can find some good floor mats you would like compared to some carpeted mats that you won't like. I don't care too much about the carpets, to be honest with you. My car is not very clean. Maybe I'll change. Maybe I'll clean my Tesla a lot more, but it's not a huge concern. But we have floor mats. I think we got those way back in 2019 when we were getting ready. They've been sitting in a box for a long time. It's about time we do something with them. Thoughts on Tesla doing a Cybertruck unveil / event 2.0 in November? Yeah, I saw your tweet about that, Mike. I think it's a reasonable timeline. I know you're really, really excited for that Cybertruck to be listed as under construction instead of in development. But I'm personally not convinced there will be an event to update people on the Cybertruck, because I think most of the updates are going to be disappointing. There will be some positive updates, like, okay, we're closer to mass production, and we're going to go with a quad motor powertrain, which is way faster than the tri-motor is, and the 0 to 60 will be 2.5 seconds or something crazy like that, and it'll have this great traction control. We added rear-wheel steering, we added a mid-gate or whatever, or we added a great towing capability, maybe not long range, but we added great payload capacity, and the durability is good, and we added a driver display, so it's more like the Model S and X. But most of the takeaway from that event would be that, oh, by the way, the range isn't as good and the price is crazy high. I am more and more convinced every day that goes by that my pessimistic theory is going to be right, that it's going to be like a little over 300-mile range, and it's going to be north of $100,000. At this point, probably more. 100,000 actually sounds pretty reasonable. If you just consider the market right now, okay, even if I'm wrong and you think that it'll be a 400 or 500-mile range, just look at what the price is for Tesla's 400-mile range Model S. And I would argue that's a less in demand, less hyped vehicle than the Cybertruck is. Model S has been around for 10 years now. It's not that big it's cool. It's like my dream sedan and everything, but it doesn't have the same hype around it that the Cybertruck does. And that car starts at $105,000, and it's way smaller and it's way more efficient than the Cybertruck. They can get a little over 400 miles of range with a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. The Cybertruck, I think, even with if you compare efficiencies of closely sized vehicles or even high weight vehicles, if you do the math on how much energy it consumes to move a big vehicle like that with an exoskeleton, with a big frontal surface area, it's not going to be super efficient. You can only cheat so much with weight in the exoskeleton and the 4680 batteries. Even if we round up a little bit, and even my numbers are based on the concept that the Cybertruck will be the lightest electric pickup truck on the market. It will be lighter than the Rivian. It'll be lighter than the Ford F-150 Lightning. It'll be lighter than the Hummer, which is very easy to be. But I assume it'll be lighter than all those trucks, but probably still close to the weight or a bit heavier than a Model X Plaid, because it has more motors and it's larger, and it's just a fairly complicated vehicle with armored glass and everything. It's just big. Big means more weight, bigger tires, which make it less efficient as well. Even if we're generous with the efficiency, it would still require a 120 kilowatt hour battery pack to break the 300 mile mark. Not the 400. If you want it to go 400, 500, we're talking like a 160 to maybe 200 kilowatt hour battery pack to get a big vehicle like that to go that far. Batteries are the most expensive component, and that's also what is the most finite right now. Tesla seems to... Thank you for the super chat, Taker. I'll answer that in a minute. Basically, from what we can tell, Tesla's having issues ramping the 4680. It's going a lot slower than they would have liked. That's why they're ramping so many 2170 cells. After listening to the last earnings call, I'm fairly convinced that Giga Texas is not building any 4680 Model Ys right now. They've installed equipment, and they're trying to they're trying to install 4680 manufacturing lines at Giga Texas, but they're still very low volume. And I'm fairly convinced at this point that the Cybertruck needs 4680 batteries. I'm not sure if they could get it to work with 2170s, but I think they're going to compromise on range to prioritize production efficiency, the same way they compromised on range for the Model S Plaid Plus. Originally they said that would be a 520-mile range Tesla because they wanted to have the best range in the industry, and then they realized that having the best range in the industry doesn't really mean anything. If you can't build those cars, doesn't matter. It's just a fun tech spec that you can brag about, but it doesn't really change your demand. So they compromised and said, you know what, let's just use the old 1865 cells for the Plaid, and that will allow us to ramp the Model S much faster. And yes, I understand that a lot of Cybertruck fans and a lot of people interested in pickup trucks want to do cross-country towing, and they want to do long-distance towing, and 500-mile range is kind of needed for that. But most pickup trucks are not towing. Most people buying pickup trucks don't tow cross-country. Some do. I'm not denying the market exists. I'm just saying it's not a very common market. And Ford and Rivian are proving that, because both of those electric trucks have around 300 miles of range and they have no demand issues. Rivian's back ordered for years. Ford has several years worth of orders. There's plenty of demand for 300-mile range electric trucks. So I don't think the compromised range will kill off all demand for the Cybertruck, because demand is so crazy high right now. And they could build a lot more Cybertrucks if they use less cells, fewer cells per vehicle. So someone was asking earlier what my prediction was. I think it'll be a six-figure pickup truck. So no, it will not qualify for the federal tax credit, but I don't think Tesla cares, because demand is crazy high for it anyway. And I don't think the range will be that high. So the point of having an event to tell people that we compromised on the range and the price is way worse than we thought, I just see a bunch of people being disappointed by that. So I think it's more likely that Tesla will just, like, one day, maybe after an earnings call or maybe after a announcement, I don't know, maybe a shareholder meeting or something, they will just update they'll update the website with updated pictures of the new Cybertruck with the mirrors and the windshield wiper. Really cool cinematic angles and good lighting, and it looks real pretty. And they'll update the website and just say that, it's great. Look at, and they'll just, all the little pages you scroll through will just brag about the specs. It'll be like, this has excellent torque, excellent traction, great acceleration, supercharging access, and super futuristic interior. And they'll brag about all the great thing, and the durability of it will be great. And it'll still be a great product, but they're just going to try to downplay and not talk about the range and price as much as possible until you get to that order button. And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, it's a little bit expensive. And there will be a giant wave of disappointment. I think there will be a ton of people that cancel. Probably most Cybertruck orders will be canceled. And they'll still have more demand than they know what to do with. Anyway, has your delivery window been pushed back before? 3 times, I think it's been pushed back. But this is the closest I've ever been to it. Usually, my delivery window in the past was pushed back whenever I got into the same month. So at first it was July, and then once I got to July, it was like, oh no, it's July 29th. And then a couple weeks went by, and then it's like, actually, no, it's August. And then it's been pushed back every time I got close to it. But this is the closest I've ever been to my window. They're probably going to do a delivery event like the Plaid and officially announce changes there. That's true. I think Jacob's probably onto something there. They did have a Plaid event, but the problem is the Cybertruck will still need to, if they do a delivery event, they'll need to disclose pricing. So that before the event is what I mean. They would have to make it up earlier. Chargers are growing exponentially also, and he did say he's got a charger announcement. Yeah, they said V4 charging's coming next year. But, oh, sorry, Taker, thank you for the super chat. He says, have you heard of CTL's LFPM battery coming in 2023? Yes. I read a little bit about it. It's like a manganese mixture with the cathode, and that should improve energy density while still retaining the fairly low cost of LFP. So that's a good sign. I don't know. Tesla's their biggest customer, so I assume they're going to be using those in Teslas, but they're probably just going to be in China for a while. I don't know when they'll make their way over here. But yeah, it's a good, like, those kind of incremental improvements are pretty typical in the EV space. Like the 2170s get a little bit more energy dense every year. Same thing with the 1865 cells. They've gotten a little bit more energy dense as time has gone on, and LFP is no exception, which means that, like the LFP chemistry can hold a certain amount of energy right now, and over the next couple of years, it'll probably hold more and more. So I've always thought from the beginning that it's pretty likely that 300-mile range LFP Teslas would exist. We just don't quite have the density down, but we'll probably see that by the end of the decade. There will probably be either a rear-wheel drive Model 3 or maybe a LFP Model Y of some kind that can get 300 miles of range. They're pretty close to 300 already. people like those round numbers, you know. They like hitting that milestone. Ooh, 300, that because that just sounds so pretty. But how big of a difference does 270-mile range versus 300-mile range have on a road trip when your efficiency is kind of dependent on your driving style and the wind and the altitude climb, and you know, if you're going up or downhill, or you know, there's all these variables in play that 30 miles of range doesn't necessarily correlate to a huge change in your road trip time, but it does sound cool. It does look cool on paper. To know that you're like, hey, I could charge this to 100% every day, and I'll start with 300 miles. And yes, I saw the Blade battery. I don't think that's is that a rumor? I thought I read that they had already started shipping the Blade battery to Giga Berlin. Let's see. Thank you, Randy. Thanks for watching the channel. Appreciate the conversation, John. Thanks for tuning in. If your panel cannot support 50 amps, you need to look into installing S-Pan panel. It dynamically allocates power based on net. You know, after changing our driving habits, I think that if our panel doesn't support the 50 amps, we would probably just try to just charge it with a 110. I don't think we'd need to charge it at 50 amps for our driving style. They could just do employee deliveries for Cybertruck. They said they were delivering standard range Model Ys at the Giga Texas opening, but nobody outside of Tesla got one delivered. Yeah, people. No, there's been 4680 Model Y. I see what you guys are arguing about. At the Giga Texas event, there were employee deliveries, and then after the event, there were 4680 deliveries outside of Texas. But you're right. I guess they didn't disclose the pricing when that happened. They just kind of said, hey, deliveries have started. And then like several weeks went by before, I think it was like a month or two. No, yeah, I remember I did a whole story on that. It was like 2 months before an actual customer that wasn't an employee got one. It was just internal employees. And knowing Tesla, SpaceX too. You know, there's a ton of people working in Starbase that I'm positive have Cybertrucks on order, because people down there working in, you know, tough environments and tough terrains, they definitely want pickup trucks, and they're a big fan of SpaceX, so they're probably a big fan of Tesla, so they want Cybertrucks. I bet Tesla could probably restrict Cybertruck deliveries to just Tesla and SpaceX employees for like the first quarter, probably. Like, demand is so high for those trucks. I bet there would be a ton of internal employees that are willing to buy them, but they don't have to necessarily deliver them to non-employees for a while. It's currently the age of EV pickups, but in the next year or two, we'll see a veritable wave of EV vans, Canoo, Rivian, R1V, Tesla van built on Cybertruck platform, 4D Transit. I hope so. I think the van age would be really exciting, but we still got a ways to go before the pickup truck space is really starting to pick up traction. The standard range Model 3 only charges up to 32 amps on level 2 charging. Well, it's still like higher miles per hour or whatever, but 32 amps is all the mobile connector will do. Oh, well, that's good. So it probably won't blow out my panel then, right? Oddvice57 says, have you ordered accessories for your car already? Floor mats, screen protector, seat covers. I won't say who, but I'm in communication because I've been offered, because I'm a EV channel. When I ordered my car, I had several companies reach out asking like, hey, can we send... They don't want to do a sponsorship because I don't do sponsorships, because I don't want to sign contracts and I don't want to be paid to promote anything. But there were companies that were like, we want to get your opinions on these products. Like, we want to send you these Tesla accessories and have you review them. And if you don't like them, you don't have to talk about them. But if you do like them, just mention us on your channel. So basically, yes, we have some accessories that we'll get. Some that we already have here, some that we'll get after the pickup, after delivery. But I'd like to think I'll get my car... Sorry, Oddvice, earlier you asked when I thought I'd get my car. At this point, I'm thinking before the iPhone 14 launch. So probably before the end of September is what I think is most likely, and it seems like that's what the poll is saying. I really wish it would... I want it, now. I want it 2 months ago. But if I'm trying to be realistic, I don't have a VIN yet. Tesla's been very quiet, and my delivery window is still 4 weeks, which isn't super accurate, so... I'm gonna guess like early September, something like that is probably genuine. Neil, thank you for the super chat. He says, have you already discussed CATL M3P batteries? I'm guessing they will only be for Model Y standard range, not Model 3. Yes, I did see that. We did mention it earlier. It's a good sign. I'm excited for it, and I'm getting a lot of questions about it today. Maybe I should do a video on it, but it shows. Yeah, you know what? I think we'll do a video on that. There's enough people bringing it up, but it shows that lithium iron phosphate, I think, is the future of EV. Like, some people are waiting for some magic battery chemistry to solve all their problems. We need solid state batteries. We need graphene batteries, and that's going to make super high range, super fast charging, and that's going to make EVs mainstream. It's like, no. What you need is a battery that's okay, it's decent at fast charging and it can have a decent amount of range. It doesn't have to have 300 kilowatts charge speed. It doesn't have to have 500 miles of range, but what we need is a battery that can scale. That's where graphene and solid state batteries royally fail, is that it's extremely difficult to ramp up production of those batteries at the rate of EV adoption, where you need to build cars with 60 to 100 kilowatt hours per car, maybe more. If you're doing a pickup truck, you usually need like 100 plus kilowatt hours. And I think the future of LFP means higher cycle life, so the car lasts a lot longer, and more easy access to materials, not having to rely on precious metals so much like nickel and cobalt, but using more iron and manganese, which is a lot more accessible. So that is a big deal. Taker610 super chatted again. Thank you very much. He said, LFPM is supposedly 260 watt hours per kilogram, great for pickups. Yeah, I not just pickups, anybody. Like, higher energy density is a great advantage to battery performance, and the fact that it doesn't require, as I haven't looked super into LFPM yet because I know it's probably just going to be in China, like Neil said. It's probably just going to be a Chinese chemistry for the first year of production or something, but it could very well find its way into the US. But yeah, if you can get a battery with higher energy density that can have a really high cycle life, so you can charge it to 100% every day, and it's using materials that are more widely accessible, that's the game changer. That's like the battery tech that's going to be the breakthrough. That if there's some of you guys watching, and I know there's a lot out there, most of the people in my personal life I talk to are like, yeah, EVs are cool, I just can't afford one. Like, that they're too expensive, because I live in a place where a lot of people are buying, pretty much everyone I know buys used cars. Like, no one pays full price for new cars in my social circle, and they all try to find the cheapest deal they can on a used car with a decent number of miles on it. They probably never spend more than $10,000 to $12,000 on a car, usually much less than that. And those people are very impressed by Teslas and very interested in electric vehicles, but they're just like, yeah, no, I can't spend $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a car. That's too much. Those demographics of people that are waiting for EVs to get cheaper, they're probably waiting on a car that will have lithium iron phosphate in it, because the EVs that do start, once we get through this demand backlog and we finally start making our way down the pricing ladder again, the EVs that sell for $25,000, $20,000 or less are probably going to be EVs with lithium iron phosphate, and possibly the manganese version if that one's still pretty cheap. I would love if Tesla made a Ford Flex style car. They could, but I don't think it would be much cheaper than what they're currently charging. Will you feel emptiness after delivery? Mission accomplished. Sorry, I don't know how I'll feel. You'll have to ask me then. I'm very excited, and I'm kind of like done waiting, because I feel like I've been waiting for years for this car, because like I mentioned, we were talking about buying a Tesla back in 2019, and we kind of delayed it to be responsible and tried to secure our future and not do anything too reckless. And then we pushed it again so we could focus on investment. So it feels like ever since 2019, we've been talking about buying this car. So I'm kind of done. And I think it'll be a big relief and a big weight lifted off. Like, oh, finally, we got the car. I hope it won't be another big headache of problems or something. But there's other goals we have financially that we want to strive towards. And no, it's not buying a Model X or something. But, like there's other things we want to get to with investing and having the Tesla part of our financial story in the past will be nice. Mickey says you will, buyer's remorse. I haven't talked to very many people with Teslas that have buyer's remorse. I have not ordering remorse. I feel remorse for not ordering the standard range Model Y when it was available, because that would have been a much better vehicle at a much better price, but it's not a thing. Um, so I don't think I'll feel emptiness personally. I don't feel I buy a lot of expensive tech. Like my MacBook was absurdly expensive. My iPhone was a lot of money. This watch was a lot of money. And usually with big expensive tech purchases, I rarely feel buyer's remorse. I usually feel buyer's remorse when I spend a bunch of money on like a dinner, or I spend a bunch of money fixing something that didn't need to be fixed or got broke very quickly right after. Like spending money on things that you don't use very often and don't appreciate very much. That's where I feel remorse. Whereas the Tesla, I see myself using pretty frequently. Um, but I apologize if you're sick of me talking about waiting for the car, because I know you're probably sick of hearing me say, "Oh, here's my delivery, here's my." But I don't think I'm going to buy that many Teslas in my lifetime, and there's a decent chance we may get this Model 3 and it will be our only Tesla for decades. So I apologize if you're sick of me hyping it up, but this might be the only time we get to hype up a Tesla purchase in my career, in my YouTube, history. There might be a very, very long time before I'm waiting on another car. Like, I'm hoping that by the time I'm in the market for an EV again, there isn't a 6-month wait. It's more of like a couple week wait. So there won't be as much time to hype it up in the future. So I'm kind of making a big deal about it, and I talk about it a lot on the channel and stuff. But that's just because this is probably one of the few times I will be able to, and I'll be able to. There's only one time you're gonna buy your first EV, basically. So I don't think anything in the future will compare. Like, we might buy a better Model Y in the future. We might buy a different Tesla someday, but I'll still be coming from a Tesla. Whereas this is the first time I'm getting a Tesla and I'm coming from a crappy gas car. Oof Dad says has been waiting for his Model Y long range for 289 days. Had a 2-week window, and 3 days before I entered it, it got pushed to September. Oh, wow. 3 days before I entered it. That sucks. Well, I guess I got past that part. I'm 1 day away from my window. New month, new Tesla, says Dirty Tesla. Yeah. The car will only draw what the wiring and panel will take. The sensors in the car and connector, mobile current, and temperature both ends. Mine set to 32 amps unless more is needed at that time. I see. I will be using an extension cord, so that might have an effect on the car's knowledge of the amperage and all that. Jacob says, one thing that tells me Cybertruck has a big battery is V4 superchargers with 350 kilowatt charging. Why would Tesla be rushing to get faster charging if Cybertruck wouldn't take advantage with its 100 kilowatts? Well, for one, there's a lot of vehicles that can take advantage of 350 kilowatts that are not pickup trucks. Like the Lucid Air can charge at 350 kilowatts, and that has a 118 kilowatt hour pack, which even if the Cybertruck had a 300-mile range, it would have a bigger battery pack than that. I'm rounding down. I hope you guys know that. After Tesla posted the 4680 Model Y weight and everything, well, people weighed it and discovered that it's not that much lighter than the 2170. It's almost the exact same weight. I'm not convinced the Cybertruck's going to be that lightweight of a vehicle. So if it's heavier, it's probably going to need like 130, 140 kilowatt hour battery pack. So you can take advantage of 350 kilowatts and still have a 300-mile range. That's not that's not mandatory. But they've been talking about V4 supercharging for a while. I remember making videos about it, I think 2 years ago. So it's been discussed for quite a bit. Ryan says you'll want the Model S eventually. I want it now. That's not that doesn't change anything. I still want a Model S. I just can't afford one, and I don't think I'll be able to afford one eventually, unless the YouTube channels take off. But that's okay. I'm comfortable with the money I'm making, and when I test drove the Model 3, I was very impressed with it, and I've had a lot of talks with the wife about, what we're comfortable. We're not buying this car just so that we can replace it in a year, and we're not trying to live outside our means. So we're just trying to be modest. I talk about EVs and cover a lot of Tesla content, so it felt right to own the product and review the product and use it so that I could cover my experience with it on the channel. But I don't think that means I need to buy the latest, greatest, most expensive version for the channel. This as much as I'd love to just buy a bunch of EVs and review all of them, this very well may be like the last EV I buy for decades. I could just have this car for a very, very long time, depending on what happens. I'm probably much more likely to get an Aptera in the future than a Model S or a Cybertruck or something like that. If I was looking at a secondary EV, it would be the Aptera. Um, that's more dependent on Aptera actually making it to market. If Aptera starts delivering vehicles, there's likely going to be one in our life. You'll compete with Chris on how many Teslas you can go through over your lifetime. I want to be the antithesis of that. I want to see how long I can use one car. Keith the Plug says, I just want a battery that can be charged to 100% every day, or at least add the Apple-like technology where the battery charging slows down once the battery hits 80%. It already does that, Keith. It does that by default. And there's a charge limiter. Teslas actually give you way more control over your battery pack than Apple does. I wish I had a charge limiter on my MacBook, on my iPhone, where I could just say, hey, stop charging at 80%. And yes, I know there's apps that do that. I've tried them and they're buggy and they don't work very well. If they had a built-in native feature that just said, don't charge the battery past 80%, that would be great. But yeah, Tesla's already trickle charge. Mikey Lee says, I'm very interested in your order. It's indicative of when I should expect mine. Yeah, I know a lot of people have asked about it, so I'm happy to talk about it because I'm excited. Marngel says, hopefully Teslas will last for decades. They have yet to prove to last as long as a traditional gas car, but I'm hopeful they will. Yeah, I still see a lot of 2012 Model S's. There's people driving them, and the battery tech has gotten much better since then. So they've taken what they've learned from the Model S era, and we know that the lithium iron phosphate chemistry has a higher cycle life than the 2170 cells, which we have battery degradation data on that. The 2170 cells hold up better than the 1865 cells. So Tesla hasn't been around long enough for us to really know how a Tesla ages after 20 or 30 years. But I'd love to be exploring that, over the grand scheme of 20 or 30 years. I'm a fairly early adopter of lithium iron phosphate. There's some people that got it before I did, obviously, but they just started delivering lithium iron phosphate Model 3s like a little over a year ago, I think. So in the grand scheme of decades, I'm still pretty early. I'm within the first couple of years of it being available. So if I get to be the guy that reviews LFP Model 3 over the course of like 10, 20 years, I think that would be pretty fun, just to see how the degradation is and what goes wrong and what holds up, how the AMD Ryzen chips and all that age. You should try to keep your car for as long as possible. Yeah, that's the goal. Unless my lifestyle changes. If I have a bunch of kids or something, or I need to move stuff around more, we might have to buy a different vehicle if the Model 3 doesn't fit our lifestyle. But right now, it fits our lifestyle fine. Like, we drive a sedan, and that's plenty for us. Just a car that we can drive around, family and friends in. 5-seaters are good, although we rarely have 5 people in the car. We don't really move that much stuff. So the trunk of the Model 3 is plenty big for us. And we could install a tow hitch on it. I do like to go mountain biking with my friend, but I've seen some pretty solid tow hitches installed on the Model 3, so we might do that if I want to take the bikes around. I wouldn't buy a whole new car just so I could mount my bike to it. That's not necessary. But yeah, I would love, assuming our lifestyle doesn't change or we don't get, totaled, I would love to just see how long we can get the Model 3 to last us. The performance model will get you the car faster. I know, but I don't want the performance model. It's a lot more expensive and a lot less efficient, which are two things that are very important to me with my EV: efficiency and the cost. How do you think the hardware will age on your Tesla? Example, Intel chips versus Ryzen. I'm concerned how FSD and PC hardware age versus drivetrain. Yeah, I think I'm not so much worried about the processor. I'm sure over time the AMD Ryzen chip won't be as fast as it is on day one. But the bigger problem is the modems. Currently, they're not building any EV that I'm aware of. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think there's a single electric vehicle on the market that comes with 5G. And I'm not a big fan of 5G. I don't think we need 5G on our phones, but regardless of what I think of 5G, mobile carriers love to discontinue old versions of connectivity as time goes by. So right now, the older Model S's are already experiencing this because the old Model S's were based on the 3G network, which was basically what the standard was at the time when they were built back in 2012. It was most phones and stuff were using 3G. And over time, mobile carriers started discontinuing 3G. So now those old cars aren't going to get cellular unless they get a retrofit, which um, may cost money in the future. And Tesla's basically just making more work for themselves by not putting 5G in the cars now, because we know 4G is going to be discontinued in a matter of time, probably before the car dies. So it's not going to happen in the next couple years, but probably by the end of the decade, I could see mobile carriers start discontinuing 4G LTE, and that's what all Teslas have right now. So they're going to have to add 5G to all of them, or you're just going to have to hotspot off your phone or something like that. So that's a little bit of a concern. I wish Tesla would add 5G now, just so that they would be set for the future. But I definitely think AMD Ryzen will age better than Intel. But if you're worried about AMD Ryzen aging poorly, it's like, then I got no solution for you, because Tesla has the fastest, best processors for their infotainment system out of any EV I've seen. I haven't seen any other company have a more responsive and more up-to-date chip in their infotainment system. So, but that's just all processors. All processors are going to age to a certain degree. AMD Ryzen's no exception. But the best way to combat that is just to have the fastest processor you can when you're building the vehicle. So AMD Ryzen chips that they're using right now, that's probably their best bet. LTE will stretch out way longer than 3G, my guess. Well, I hope you're right, Ryan. I'm not hoping that they discontinue it. I'm just saying I've seen them do it before. They discontinued 3G and they didn't have to, and there will probably be a big talk after 5G. There will be a big 6G wave, and once 6G is becoming mainstream in the 2030s, they'll be trying to get rid of 4G. How many people like to use 10-year-old processors? Well, I don't know. Like isn't the right question, but you're kind of stuck. There's not really a way for Tesla to fix that, because processor tech gets better and better over time. So even if they put the most powerful M1 Ultra Extreme chip in the Teslas now, it's still going to be dated in 10 years. So it doesn't really, there's not a great way to combat that. Maybe offering retrofits. Mike in the Woods says, Drew steps out from his billion-dollar mansion. He steps to his 2023 Model 3. The panels have fallen off and the battery's degraded to 12-kilometer range. He starts to wonder if he should upgrade. Yes, that will be me, except without a mansion. I don't think I'll ever have a billion-dollar mansion. Keith says he's a month away from his order. Hopefully it doesn't get pushed back again. I ordered last year, November. Oh, wow. That's a long wait. My God. We hope for Robotaxi within 10 years. Would you mind to not driving the car? I don't have a problem about that. I have a problem with strangers getting in my car and the car driving them around. I don't really have an interest in opting my car into the Robotaxi network, but I would like the self-driving as an assist feature. The car can drive me around. I got no issue with that. If I'm in the car and I just want to relax and go on my phone or watch a movie or read a book and just let the car do all the driving, yeah, I'm totally comfortable with that. I mean, it might take a little getting used to not paying attention at the wheel, but once it was proven and there was a lot of data on it showing how safe it was, then yeah, I could do that. I wouldn't want it driving around people that I don't know. They're gonna spill something in my car, throw up in my car. Like, people treat things differently when they don't own them. I've taken public transport before, and I know how people in my area would treat a robo-taxi, and I wouldn't want that. Thank you for the super chat, Neil. He says, outdated chips. Older Teslas got hardware 3 updates for no additional cost in 2019. 2020, wish I had Ryzen processor, but Intel is still running okay. Yeah, it's running okay. It's not particularly old, but correct me if I'm wrong, Neil. I thought you got hardware 3 if you bought full self-driving. It wasn't hardware 3 for free for everybody. I thought if you bought a Tesla without full self-driving back in 2018 or 2017, you didn't get hardware 3 upgrade for free. But I could be wrong on that. That's what I remember reading, was like, if you buy full self-driving, then they will offer the hardware 3 upgrade. So that's kind of an additional cost. Karen Babaknia, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not, but something crazy I wanted to tell you. I got a Plaid X in January, and it had endless problems, and as of 2 days ago, Tesla is taking a full return on it and refunding me for it. Isn't that crazy? Yikes. Yeah, I'm sorry it didn't work well for you. That's a bummer. But it's nice that they offered a full refund. I've never heard of that. Um, Wooden Fluff says, with gas prices going down, do you think supercharged prices will go down too? I remember seeing something about prices increasing at stations. I don't think it's tied to gas. I think it's more tied to what the cost of electricity is in that area. Most places that, although from what I've seen, there typically seems to be a bit of a correlation, not so much a causation, but in the places where supercharging is very expensive, gas is usually pretty expensive too. It's rare that you see a place with low gas prices but high charging prices. It's like, yes, there are places with expensive superchargers where they start to get up to like 40 cents, 50 cents a kilowatt hour, but those places usually have $5 to $6 a gallon gas, which means it's still cheaper to charge. It's very rare for you to find a place where the electricity is actually costing you more than it would to drive a gas car. So if you find the places where gas is cheaper, charging is probably cheaper there too. Like gas was cheaper in Washington where I was visiting my parents than it was here. It was like $1 less per gallon. Like around here, everything's like $5 a gallon. Up in Washington, it was more like $4.50 a gallon. But the cost of electricity up there was like a third of the cost here. Like where I am, it's like 30 cents a kilowatt hour. Up in Washington, it was like 7 cents a kilowatt hour. So Neil says hardware 3 is free if you already bought FSD. Yeah, that's most people don't buy FSD though. So that's what I mean. And we're not talking about the infotainment, to be clear. You're talking about the full self-driving computer chip. That does not pertain to the infotainment system. That is just controlling autopilot and all that. So they're not offering you Ryzen processors upgrades on your old Model 3s if you buy full self-driving. They're just offering you the latest FSD computer. But most people don't buy FSD. I think the take rate from Troy Teslike said that it's currently set at like, I think it's a 10 or 12% take rate. Ryan says home rate is 13 cents per kilowatt hour. Ryan, and then superchargers are 40 cents per kilowatt hour. Yeah, so supercharging is pretty much always going to be more expensive because they don't want you comfortable doing it all the time. They really only want you supercharging if you really need it, and they're trying to incentivize home charging. That's how I interpreted it. $1,000 hardware 3 upgrade from hardware 2.5 in my 2018 Model 3 long range. Yeah, I could see that being worth it, but again, it's the full self-driving computer. You're not getting the AMD Ryzen chip for that upgrade. I don't know if they occasionally will offer that kind of thing. Like the older Model S's got an optional upgrade to MCU 2, but it was like $2,000, and it made your screen more responsive, and I think it gives you 4G connectivity instead of 3G. So it wasn't free, even if you paid $80,000 for the car. It's not a free retrofit, but definitely getting a Model 3, like I was thinking about going with a used Model 3 to accelerate delivery, but knowing that it would have Intel means that I might have to pay for that used Model 3 later in its own way. Margel says, with my Model 3, with its Intel processors, the infotainment has been very laggy for the past year, and I only owned it for a couple of years. It's very annoying. Yeah, I've seen comparisons, and it's pretty noticeable. So the more I watched those comparisons, the more it convinced me that waiting for my order to come through so that I would get the AMD Ryzen is probably going to be worth it, because it'll save me from paying for a retrofit down the line that might help improve the speediness of the CPU. But yeah, hey, even a $2,000 upgrade is cheaper than buying a whole new car, that's for sure. One new supercharger near me seemed to have price increase, then price decrease recently. Yeah, I think it's based on just the electricity rate in that area. But as far as I can tell, it's still much cheaper to charge than it is for gas. But to be fair, even if it did cost more to charge than gas, I would still charge, just because it's more convenient. There's been so many times we've gotten home and we have a low tank and we have to like, hold on, we got to go here, but we got to get gas before we go there, or we got to take a trip, but we got to get gas before we leave. If I could just leave the house with a full charge, that would be so much better. Regardless of how much it costs, I would much rather just charge. And I hate gas stations. They're smelly and stinky and annoying, and I just like the concept of just plugging in the car and it charges. I don't want to have to get out my card and put in this. You can barely see the little screens, and you got to swipe the card, and then you got to pick the gas you want. I just like the plug in, done. That's good enough for me. But anyway, I've been live for quite a while. I better be careful, because if I'm not I might do this all day. So I'll probably be live over on Talos of Tech later today. It's kind of my live stream day. So if you want more live content that's probably less EV related, I'll be over on Talos of Tech. But I appreciate you guys for voting. Seems like most people think I'm getting my car next month. That's still an exciting thing to say. Um, and I can't wait to live stream from within the car. And I appreciate all the super chats today. You guys have been super generous. Thank you for all your super chats and all our Patreon supporters, which I want to give a very special shout out to our enhanced and executive members. Where are they here? Yeah. Joshua Vinnick, Dennis P., Dr. Mark Choi, who's a dentist in the Woodland area, Bennett Williams, Joshua Levitsky, Robert Brindle, Matt S., and Alex Ding. Thank you all so much for supporting on Patreon. Seriously means a ton to me, and it's allows this dream job to be a reality. So hope you all have an excellent rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.